I Okay, we're live, but what just happened? That that was one of the craziest games probably all season because, well, like just to go over it, the first half it was neck and neck. Like it was one of those games where you're just like, okay, the Jazz aren't playing as great as they could, but the Hornets are also playing pretty decent, so it's fine. The Jazz will probably take it over. And then in the third quarter, the Hornets are beating the Jazz like almost the whole time. Like they're up by double digits in the third quarter. And at that point, I was for the first half I was not worried, and then the third quarter, I was a little worried that the Jazz were going to lose, and I would like that would be awful. Lose two in a row, and one of them against the Hornets. Um, and then the fourth quarter happened. That like what the crap was that? The Jazz outscored the Hornets by 21 points in the fourth quarter. Um, Normally I start with the team stats, but I just want like something really weird happened right at that point in the fourth quarter, and the Jazz just took off. So I'm going to start with the box score. If you look at the plus minus in the box score, everyone in the Jazz, like I'm going to exclude 5 players, but everyone on the Jazz except for these 5 players range anywhere from -8 with Bojan Bogdanovic being the lowest up to a +1 with 4 bench players being tied for +1. But then with the lineup of, I don't know if they were in at the same time or what happened here, but Jordan Clarkson had +15, Rudy Gobert had +24, Mike Conley had +22, Niang had +27, and Ingles had a +32 for the game. Uh, so I don't know what happened there. Obviously, the Jazz shot amazing from three. That was bizarre, though. That was one of the weirdest fourth quarters I've ever seen. And anyone who just looks at the scores at the end of tonight is not going to realize like what happened in this game, because it'll just look like the Jazz blew out the Hornets. And that's what happened for one quarter of the game, but that's not what happened for most of the game. Uh, so really bizarre game. I'm pretty sure Niang won the Jazz of the game with like, because there's one point where the Jazz, like in the fourth, at the end of the third, they hit a three to take the lead by 1, and then they were just kind of going back and forth, kind of like it was for the rest of the game. And then Yang hit like 2 or 3 threes right in a row, and then the Jazz, it was just game over from there. So that was a weird game. I'll jump into the team stats, but I really want to get the chat going today, so I'll try to be really quick with the team stats, and then if you have any questions, comments, anything, I want to hear whatever you have to say about this game. Let's get talking about it, because this one I wasn't expecting this from this game. So, and also we have the Lakers game on Wednesday, so this is the last chance that we have to kind of talk about how the Jazz match up with the Lakers before they actually play the Lakers. Granted, I don't think the Lakers will be full health, but oh well. That just happens sometimes. So yeah, if you're here, type anything in the chat. Type 5 questions in the chat right now, just to get ahead, so I have stuff to talk about. But the team stats, I'll dig into them because I feel like the box score was weirder because of the 5 players with the crazy plus minus. If I didn't explain it very well, like pull up the box score yourself and look at it. Just look at the plus minus for the Jazz, and it's bizarre because everyone's just right around -8 to +1, except for 5 players, and they just were crazy. But as far as the team stats goes, it looks more like a typical Jazz win. The Jazz hit 28 threes, which is insane. They shot just over 50% from 3. They shot right around 53% from the field. So just a good shooting night. Out rebounded the Hornets, which is kind of what we expected. Had a ton more assists than the Hornets. And then, if my favorite stat, turnovers, that's a good sign of a Jazz win when the Jazz have 7 more turnovers than the Hornets. The Jazz had 23 turnovers to the Hornets 16, which I don't know. I feel like, because last game against the Clippers, they had less turnovers than the Clippers, but they lost. So maybe the key to the Jazz victory is turning the ball over more. I don't know what that means. I've been trying to think about why the Jazz turn the ball over so much, even in games that they blow the other team out, and like what that means. The only thing I can think of is they just have a faster paced offense win games that they win because they get threes and they just kind of shoot immediately and it falls. But I don't know how that maybe getting into that rhythm. It might actually be the Jazz pass the ball more and just those more passes lead to more turnovers. Um, I don't know if you have something other than that explains why the Jazz have a tendency to turn over the ball a lot but still win games. Like, let me know. I'm really interested in how that works out. Um, but yeah, like other than that, pretty typical Jazz as far as if you Jazz win if you compare their team stats to other team stats. The Jazz did have 2 technical fouls. And I guess one weird thing is typically the Jazz don't get in a double digit deficit, especially against teams like the Hornets, but they were down by 11 at one point and they came back and won by a lot. They won by 22, so that's crazy. But yeah, weird game. Niang and Ingles were just going crazy tonight. Both of them had crazy plus minus. Um, yeah, I'll hop into the chat. The chat looks like it's kind of slow right now, so make sure that you type anything you want, type any comments, any questions about this game, about the Jazz season, about the Lakers game on Wednesday. Yeah. And also, if you haven't liked the video, like the video. If you like it now, that makes it easier for people to find it. And then we can get more people here on the chat and get the live chat going. And then it becomes a lot more fun for everyone. So yeah, I'll start. So Sawyer, he said, minivan was a Cadillac this game. That's true. And it came out of nowhere. We can't expect this from Niang all the time, but it does show that the Jazz have more depth than some people might give them credit for. Because you think of Niang as, okay, he'll hit a 3 a game and then play good defense when he's in, and that's what he does. But he shows and to be fair, the Hornets aren't the best defensive team. They're actually pretty awful. But it was really fun to see a player like Niang just go off tonight. That was awesome. Nate says the Jazz decided to coast for 32 minutes. I know, like, I was watching the game in not so much the third quarter, but the first 2 quarters. Watching the Jazz, it kind of reminded, like, I wasn't worried for the game at all in the first 2 quarters. And watching the Jazz, it kind of reminded me, like, sometimes if you play like pick up basketball against like a younger sibling or something like that, and you give yourself some sort of handicap, like you can only shoot with your left hand or something like that. It kind of felt like the Jazz were almost giving themselves a handicap and they were just kind of messing around and having fun with the Hornets. And then the Hornets took a decent lead in the third quarter. So maybe they just decided to coast. I don't know what happened. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe it was just they were playing as solid as they could, and then they went off fourth, and it was the luck of it. I don't know if this planned. I hope it wasn't planned. Maybe it was because this is the first game that they're really trying to get Conley back into things. So Nate also says Jazz need to do a better job starting games. It hurt them against the Clippers last week, and they'll need to be better to beat the Lakers. Yeah, I feel like I'm having a tough time figuring out a trend with the Jazz this year. I know early in the season we kept talking about they need to do better early games, and then it got to the point where they started just taking off early on in the game, and then they had a few games where they were bad early and then they didn't close well. But it is true that I feel like almost every game there's some point where they kind of they just don't play as well. And to credit the Jazz, like at the beginning of the season, I was saying they had an energy issue. I'm not seeing an energy issue anymore. It's just sometimes third quarter is not their quarter. Sometimes first quarter is not their quarter. In this game, like quarters 1 through 3 weren't their quarters. So I don't know how to fix that. I'm not seeing an energy issue, so it might be a more complicated fix. maybe it's just they don't hit their shots. Maybe it's they're more timid, so they just need to come out more aggressive. But that would be something interesting to study a little more the beginning of games and see what happens there. Sources, yeah, the Jazz have an okay first bat and second, and crazy second half. Why does that always happen? Yeah, and then that kind of goes along with Nate's comment that I just responded to. Um, the Jazz are actually a hydra. Gobert was insane, and Niang was literally on fire. I loved how the team threw threw water to cool him off. Uh, I don't know what happened. Like he had 20. I think both him and Ingles had 21 points. We kind of expect that from Ingles, but and Niang, he had like an okay game, and then he got to the fourth and scored like 15 straight or something crazy like that. So that was fun to watch. He shot 7 for 7. He did not miss in 16 minutes. He did his thing. Other than that, like three. So I don't know if we can see Niang come out that hot more often. I'm not expecting like this nightly thing, but if we can see that, that just makes the Jazz crazier. Um, the two that were unproductive in the Clippers game were the unsung heroes of this game, Niang and Ingles. I feel like a lot of players were unproductive in the Clippers game, but that's true. We didn't see much from the bench in the Clippers game, and that's one thing you can always look at whenever a team loses. They typically have the advantage in the next game, and that's not always the same in the regular season because a lot of times you'll have two teams who just lost the last game, and then that doesn't really work. But that's definitely true in the playoffs, and that's something else that you can look NBA because there's a lot of they're all professionals, and so if you see a player who's a veteran, they've been through it before, and they have a bad game or a bad couple of games, a lot of times you can look out and there'll be a time where it just clicks, and it was cool to see both of them click tonight. That was fun. Yeah, by the way, Nate got to go to the game. I'm guessing you've seen that in the live chat. He commented about it. But he said got to go to the game tonight. Some of the best words I've heard in a long time were welcome back to Vivint Smart Home Arena. Yeah, I miss that. It's going to be fun when eventually everything we can fill up the arena again. It's also like it also even makes it more fun to watch from home because you don't hear the fans as much, and it's kind of weird watching an arena that only has like fake noise pumped into it. You can tell the difference. But yeah, like what I I'd probably said it 15 times. Like this game was just weird. I thought it was super fun, especially the fourth quarter. And there got a point where just like the Jazz couldn't miss. Obviously, like Niang kind of kickstarted that. Ingles joined in, Conley joined in, Mitchell joined in, and everyone was just like hitting their threes in the fourth quarter. But honestly, it's crazy that this game, I didn't think this game was going to turn into much, but it kind of blew my mind, and I'm still a little in shell shock of just that fourth quarter. But the Lakers game is on Wednesday. And so if like what does this mean for the like obviously it's like a couple players just took off. They had Conley. This was like the first like they had him in the lineup versus the Clippers, but I feel like they weren't playing with him like they normally did against the Clippers, and I feel like this game they were fitting him more into the lineup like they and not only the lineup with minutes, but the lineup with how he plays with the team. And so I feel like that's out of the way. We kind of had a weird game with Niang and everyone just going off. And so now the Jazz have to get ready to play the Lakers. And has anyone seen like last we talked, we were pretty sure Anthony Davis wasn't playing. I kind of stopped following his injury situation because I just kind of expected that. But does anyone have confirmation of like whether Anthony Davis is playing in that game? Because if he is, that makes me even more excited for it. But also, like we've been talking about this Lakers game forever. this is the last time that we're going to have a live stream before it because it's in a couple of days. So what are you? So Nate confirmed AD's out through the All-Star break at least. So we won't see him, but we'll still see LeBron, and there might be a couple other injuries I missed out, but I guess we'll find out on Wednesday. My internet is being funky. I don't know if it's my internet or my computer, so I'm afraid to look anything up in case it messes with the stream. Um, but yeah, like I don't know where else to go. Like I'm just excited for the Lakers game. Still kind of shell shocked from this game because it was so much fun to see Niang go off. Um, and I feel like we've talked about the Lakers game like even before the season started. So I wonder if like I'm curious like what the Jazz like how they've been preparing for it because I know they've had it marked on their calendar for a long time. Anytime LeBron, it's a big game. Sorry says I don't really like LeBron. I've I've gone up and down with my opinion of LeBron over the years. Um, like young LeBron before he moved to the Heat, I don't think there was anyone who it was like tough not to like him because he's just the hometown kid who's doing good things for his team. And then obviously you know what's happened since then. And honestly, LeBron is probably as great as he is, he's probably just stuck being the villain of the NBA for the rest of his career, except for the team that he's on because people are tired of seeing him in the championship. Um, but I don't know. I think like what are your guys' predictions for the Lakers game? I think the Jazz will win, especially since Anthony Davis is out. Um, but yeah, any major thoughts? The chat's kind of slow. It is a Monday night and the game against the Hornets, and anyone who didn't watch it probably just saw a blowout. So that might be another reason why it's kind of slow tonight. And also another thing to ask, since it is slow right now. Sorry, my computer's being weird. I was trying to check something. Sorry, kind of all over the place. So before I get to that question, so Sawyer says I think they will win and lots of threes in action for Gobert. Yeah, especially since Anthony Davis is out. They do have Marc Gasol. I don't think he's injured. I haven't heard anything about that. But he's not the Marc Gasol of old. He's not going to be able to do much against Gobert, especially with Gobert's scoring style as kind of the roll man. The Jazz shot a ton of threes tonight. They were hot. And honestly, like the Lakers don't have any incredible perimeter defenders, like other than LeBron, and I don't even know if we're going to see like full on LeBron in this game. I don't know what his mindset is. Like, I don't know if he's definitely the kind of player who has beef with like players that can't. I don't think he has a beef with anyone on the Jazz. They're down a man. I wonder if his mindset is almost okay. Let's not embarrass ourselves, but why? Like, I don't know if they'll play him a ton of minutes because they might need to beat the Jazz. And so I don't know. LeBron's getting old. They do have to kind of manage his minutes. So I'm curious to see the Lakers' strategy there. It says the Jazz have to win without AD. Yeah, that would be a bad sign for the like. It wouldn't be an awful sign if the Jazz lost without AD playing, because it's just one game in the season and we lost to the Timberwolves and look at where they're at now. But it would be concerning and would give a huge confidence boost to the Lakers if the Jazz come in, lose without Anthony Davis playing, and then if later when they match up in the season when Anthony Davis is probably healthy, or if they match up in the playoffs, then the Lakers kind of feel like they'll have the Jazz number. Obviously, the Jazz are a good enough team that that's not the end of it, but I don't know. I'm excited for the game. I think there's going to be it's going to be a fun game because it's going to be one like that. I know the Jazz have been getting more attention because they've been playing good, but it's going to be one that the Jazz get a ton of attention on Wednesday. And so I'm not only excited to see the outcome, but it's also fun to see how the national media perceives the Jazz, and we've been seeing that a little more. And I don't know, and I guess how they play is how the media will perceive them, and that's how people will perceive them until their next like big time game like that. Um, Jerky Shack, he says, I have it from a good inside source that Rudy Gobert is working on his deep three and will be the Jazz's secret weapon late in the season. Dude, that's my dream right there. Rudy Gobert becomes the Steph Curry, but he's also 7'3" and the craziest defender. And then I think Nate and I were joking. Sometimes it blends on like what we're recording and what we post and what we don't. But we were joking earlier about how the Jazz need to get Gobert to work on his three just a little bit, and then have him shoot like 5 threes in the season and just make sure he makes 2 of them. And then when it's a blowout, like late in the fourth, just talk one of the other teams, like one of the other team's players, to foul him on the three. That way, if he misses it, it doesn't count. And so that way we can get Gobert to be a 40% 3-point shooter. That'd be awesome. Orbit about the Lakers game, he says the Jazz should win. They have Bogey in the mix this time. Yeah. And the Jazz are just a more complete team, especially when the Lakers are missing a major player. Source says Bogey and Conley need to step up. I agree. Like, we've seen great things from Bogey certain games, but I feel like for the most part, he just he's not really doing much. I guess what he does do is maybe he doesn't always show up on the box score because he's a 3-point threat, and so he helps space the floor just by his presence out there. It spaces the floor, but at the same time, with the contract that he has and the potential that he has to score, we need to see him doing more. And to be fair, he only shot the ball 8 times, which is decent. It's not crazy. I'd like to see him shooting more than that each game. And Conley, I'm going to give a break to. He's had 2 okay games. He's been out for a while, so I think we'll see a lot more from him in the Lakers game. Nate says, watch Gobert hit a warm-up 3 tonight, but he doesn't see one coming in the game anytime soon. I don't know. Late season. If they need to make a push for the first seed, that's when Gobert is going to start shooting threes. Or if it comes down to an elimination game, then that's when you see Gobert shooting. That's going to be their secret weapon. I don't think it was last season, but maybe it was a couple seasons ago. They drew up a play for Gobert to shoot like it was like a 14-footer, and it just went straight in. And then everyone got super excited. Like, oh, is Gobert? Does he have a mid-range jump shot now? Like, oh, it's just Quinn holding him back, not letting him shoot. But yeah, I would love to see Gobert like develop kind of a jump shot, but at the same time, he's kind of in a position that he doesn't need to, and I'd almost rather him work on post moves. But I don't know if the NBA was just like 2K, NBA 2K, where you could just go in and edit his stats, and then he has just a perfect jumper. That would be hilarious. I feel like it's a slow night again. Great win for the Hornets, though. I'm going to cut the stream off now, but I'm hoping for a huge turnout against the Lakers, especially if it's a win. Make sure to share the channel with anyone who likes this kind of stuff with the Jazz, and if we can like try to get them there on Wednesday for the Lakers game, because that one's going to be a fun one, and we'll have a lot to break down. And whatever happens in that game, we'll be able to break down for what happens in the playoffs. Also on Wednesday, we're getting All-Star announcements. I'm not sure what time they're announcing that, but I'm assuming it should be out before the game is over. I don't think they're going to wait till it's super late because it's a late game, so the stream won't start until like right before 11. So we'll get to talk about that. That's going to be a ton of fun. Thanks for joining me tonight. That was a crazy win. Niang went off. If you have homework, do your homework, because that's what I'm about to do. But yeah, thanks for joining the stream. This was a ton of fun.